What's up, party people? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News. We haven't done a live in a little bit. Lauren and I have been playing catch up. This spring has been wicked busy. However, there is no better time to bring back Cantina Hour than tonight, because we're not only kicking off Craft Beer Week, which is a big important week to, not only get out there and support your local craft breweries, but also, hey, we're talking some comics. We have a very special guest tonight. So before we get to Ernie Altbacker, who's going to talk about his Area 51 comic book, and then we're going to dive into some of his work in time as a screenwriter. I'm going to talk about the beer from Wise Man Brewing that I have from North Carolina. I picked this one because the can fit kind of the theme of the art, which I have some art to show you from the comic book here. But like, subscribe, share, follow, all of those good things on Hops Geek News, any social media platform, we're there. Support the show, patreon.com/Hops Geek News if you would like to support the show. We do ad-free episodes for our Patreons, early drops. We do movie nights once a month, maybe sometimes twice a month, who knows? And all of that good stuff. Lauren, you got a solo shot now. What do you have over there, buddy Christ? Oh, geez, she's muted. She does this every time. You're embarrassing.
That's because my kids are always making noise. So,
my gosh.
I got to see a live Q&A with Kevin Smith this past weekend and saw Dogma on the big screen, which I have not done since 1999. So that was a lot of fun. For my beer, though, I went with the whole alien theme. So you see extra juicy boots, and this is...
I haven't had that one yet.
Sideward Brewing, local brewery, independent brewery, and I have it in a Cad Bane glass, because he's an alien, and it's May, and we do a lot of Star Wars stuff this month. So that was my theming.
We do. And we have a special guest. Ernie Altbacker is here to chat with us. Ernie, thank you so much. We got, through a mutual friend, Jeremy Adams, brought us to your comic book. And so I would love to get to talk about that first. But go ahead and introduce yourself. And I know we briefly mentioned about a beer earlier. So if you have a beer, by all means, show it off.
You know what? There was some issues with contractors, and they didn't leave, so I couldn't run out and get a good one. All I have in my fridge are the polar opposites. I've got Coors Light and I've got Guinness.
Hey, Guinness is a good one.
Is phenomenal. That's one of my favorites. Can never go wrong with a Guinness.
Yeah, that's true. So, but yeah, I was like, I'm not going to go after, again, up against these guys on craft beer, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
And I was right. But I do support my craft breweries in the Torrance area, or maybe
what kind of styles? What are your favorite styles? What's your typical go-to when you do go into your local craft breweries?
Yeah, there is a place over here called Project Barley Square that I really like, and at their main tap room they have a bunch of cask gals.
Oh,
and they are delicious. So I go between the English ales and the German lagers and pilsners a lot. I also like my fruity Belgians. I guess the only thing that I really haven't developed a taste for, which is odd, are the IPAs. I like a few of them, but not. I like everything though, from Kolsch to stout.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
but hey, I'm not a huge IPA guy.
That's the beauty of beer. There's so much out there for everybody that you can like. There's 75 different type style, that there's something out there for everybody. So I respect that. I'm personally not you might be like, hey, I'm not big into IPAs. I'm not big into Guinness, which shocks people when I say that. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't ask to be born. I apologize. That's just how that is.
You know what? I mean, I didn't like it. I didn't like it early. And then you're like, yeah, this is really good later. So
it does grow on you. I mean, I think Guinness took longer to grow on me than an IPA did.
Yeah, that's true. So, one thing we always like to talk to our creators, because you get, everyone kind of gets here in some form or shape or another. And not to mention, when you're talking comic book superheroes or even comic books in general, everybody has an origin story. So why don't you go ahead and tell us, what was your origin story that got you hooked into the comic world? Because I know on some of your Twitter headlines, you were into the Comic Cons before they became the cool thing. So I would love to dive into some origins.
Well, yeah, I was a comic book collector from a very young age. And I just always liked fantasy and sci-fi, reading them, novels, movies, and TV shows. Just the old stuff, the new stuff, anything that I could get my hands on. And so, of course, a lot of comics went through my hands also. And yeah, growing up on Long Island, there was a couple small shows that I would always go to, and then I would hear, "Oh, well, one day, if you want to go to Nirvana, you have to go to San Diego Comic Con," and it was, yeah, on the other
What am I
side of
doing
the
here?
world.
San Diego. Where am I going
Yeah,
here? Like,
another
okay, I
the other
guess.
side of the world when you're 12 or 14. So and then I got to go to film school, and that first thing, no one was going. This was like the early 90s. No one was going. I'm like, does anybody want to come to Comic Con? And everybody's like, comics, they're lame.
You're like, what a nerd.
Yeah. I mean, it was after, obviously, like a Superman, but it was before X-Men. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
Batman also existed, but it wasn't like the cultural
I mean,
touchstone
it
that it
really is
is
not now,
today.
whereas it's cool to go to these things, right? It was one of those Back to the Future moments where like, oh, you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it.
I mean, at those Comic Cons, it was B movie spectaculars and martial arts movies.
Oh
And I
yes.
remember one time that they had, it wasn't even at San Diego, it was like at the Los Angeles Comic Con, which is a monthly thing. They had a premiere or a screening of one of Jackie Chan's new movies, and he was there and
Oh, that's
got
Wow.
cool.
into the audience and shook hands. I'm like, that would
Wow.
never
Oh,
happen.
absolutely not. That's,
Yeah.
that's equivalent to just any big action hero like Dwayne the Rock Johnson or whoever it might be, right? These days doing a Comic-Con screening and walking out through the crowd, just absolutely no chance that would happen these days.
Well, people,
I,
yeah, it's
I mean,
people
but
just get bombarded.
he was an international star at that point.
That's true, yeah.
But at a Comic Con, they're like, you know what? These people are harmless nerds. there was no security. Well, I mean, does Jackie Chan really need security?
Little did we know they were following him with little cameras, making like hoping somebody would do something, and that would be in the plot of his next film.
Well, I think
Exactly.
social media has ruined things a little bit too, because it's like even just like the characters at Disney, it's like you can't have them walking around like they used to, because people just they got to do that social media and get that picture and all this. Whereas I think back then it was people just enjoying the moment.
I
But
mean, yeah, that was it. Yeah, we didn't have them. You know,
now it's
That's
I got to document this moment so I can share it to everybody to show them how cool I am. But
the
I mean,
pictures off of the phone sucked, or they didn't exist at all. So
right?
yeah, you had a beeper, pager, or even then,
it
in some
was a
cases, you didn't even have
phone.
those.
It was a BlackBerry. It was more akin to a very small typewriter, and you were like,
Oh
Yeah.
my
"Oh, hey, I
gosh.
could do homework on this."
I had the
you know,
BlackBerry storm and it would just freeze constantly and then have to be restarted and boot. But that's got to be such an amazing journey to go from, being these small, tiny Comic Cons to seeing these gargantuan, massive things. I'm sure there's pros and cons to both. So you
exactly.
obviously have been in this world for a while and writing, Batman Hush. You've got these posters behind you. So what led to you deciding to do this Kickstarter comic in this very unique, hilarious kind of story?
Well, I mean, the project Area 51 Studios. It's kind of near and dear to my heart, and I couldn't. It, I like had agents and managers at the time, and they were just like, "That is too weird. That's too sci-fi." Again, this is like an older idea. It's 20 years old, 25 years old,
Oh wow.
and no one wanted to hear about it. And I was just like, I can't get it out of my head because it's my love letter to all of those things that forced me to come toward the business, I guess. All of the Pulp Fiction stuff from
Oh
the
yeah.
40s that was like a quarter a pop that I could buy and go home with, and the comic books and the serials uh, from the 50s and 60s, and Conan books and Elric and stuff that just you don't hear about anymore. And I'm like, I'm gonna put everything I can in it, and just have little references that if anything they'll just please me. So there's all these little word jumbles in there and stuff like that of favorite movies or characters or just a nod here and there. I've constructed this kind of story around it where so Area 51 does exist, but it is it is a secret government base, but it's not for like storing alien corpses or crashed spaceships. What it actually is a studio lot where aliens come to shoot their low budget galactic reality shows.
That sounds so much better. Just imagine an alien version of Maury out there, and oh, this is exciting.
Yeah. So I take everything you know about it and kind of turn it on its head. Like the alien corpses in the crashed spaceship were actually from a student short, which went horribly wrong. They've like discovered all this stuff and they ran away. Right. And that got some heat on them. Right. So mistakes were made there. The tone is kind of a Men in Black meets Douglas Adams, who I also loved as a writer. In fact, the lead character has the same initials as one of his great characters, right? CB. And of course, there's a bunch of Monty Python-esque weirdness jammed in there.
That's the best kind of weirdness.
I'm not doing this project alone.
No.
I found a great artist. His name is Josh White, and he's doing like all the art. This was really the only way I could get involved into it because it was the making of a comic book is just like, it's hard. It's complex. I'm doing the shows and stuff, and you write the script, and you go away, and you leave those poor animators, and they got to deal with it for 2 years. I was on it for 3-4 months, and I'm on to another project, right?
Right.
So, you have to find a letterer. You have to find a penciler, an inker, a colorist. Well, Josh, I met him at a thing at Comic-Con. Called the Comics Creator Panel, which they have every day.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, and it's kind of like speed dating between writers and artists that might want to do a comic. And there's a bunch of comics that exist because of this panel, which is done once daily at Comic-Con, right? So it's like the 5 to 7 o'clock. You know that this thing's on and you can go meet people, right? Like-minded people. And so I went one year and I just saw Josh's stuff and I was like, there was like one particular image that he had Princess Leia with her foot on a stormtrooper and she had the blaster in her hand like this. And I'm like, that's how I want it to look. Exactly. And his stuff was so good. I'm sure that bunch of people were like, yeah, let's work together. Right. So, So I was like, well, I know some people from DC, and he didn't believe me. But then he went to a panel, and I was on the panel of Justice League War World, right? I did one of the sections. I did the Wonder Woman in the West section. I wrote that, and I came out on stage, and he's like to his friends, "That's the guy I just met. That's the guy I was." Here's his card.
He wasn't lying. Oh my God.
Yeah. And his friend was like, I guess he does know some people from DC.
That'd be safe to say.
Which I don't actually know people from DC, but I know, from Warner Brothers Home Video that make DC projects. So there you go.
Right. I mean, you're still working at space because you say you don't know people at DC, but you still were responsible for bringing a lot of their comic inspirations to life and getting to play in those worlds nonetheless. So I don't argue that you're just as much a part of DC as anybody else kind of is, which I think is pretty awesome.
Well, it's definitely, for whatever part I am, I've loved every minute. I mean, one of the, my two of my favorites. You know what? I enjoyed doing every one that I got to do, but one of the first ones that I did get to do was Teen Titans: The Judas Contract.
Oh yeah.
And I had remembered reading the Judas Contract. I never liked the Teen Titans until Marv Wolfman And Giordano, the artist, I'm totally forgetting his name. He recently passed away. He's really really good.
Mhm.
Um, until they started doing it, and one of my other comic book loving friends goes, "No, no, no, no! They've got new people on it. You got to check it. You got to check this thing out. It's called the Judas Contract. It was like the first issue was last month. You should go get it." And I did, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And then I got offered the thing. It was like it's all top secret, right? You
Oh
come
yeah.
in, and they go, "This is what you'll be pitching on." And I heard the Judas Contract, and I was like, "Yes."
It's like one of the. I imagine, was it hard for you to not be like, oh my god, whoa, this is almost like a not even deja vu, but it's just I just got into this book and now they're pitching this that I get to kind of be a part of. Was it surreal for you at that moment?
Yeah, there's a couple of moments like that in my career. Another one was my very first job was working on the '90s Spider-Man
Oh, that's
Yes,
cool.
I
for
did.
John
Yes.
Semper, and Spider-Man was my favorite for some parts of my life. You know, I have different favorites here and there, right? Mine changes.
Oh
I
yeah.
know a lot of people are like Batman, that's it, you know, but I've gone through where I was like, yeah, Batman. Oh, now it's Wolverine, you know,
Yes.
and now
Touched on both of
now
our favorites,
now
but
it's
I
the
mean,
Yeah, you
Flash,
did just
I,
name our two
right?
favorites.
Aquaman is somebody who's been a long time favorite for me as well, which is one that you hardly ever hear. A lot of
But I
people say
mean,
is,
as you grow, you relate differently to different characters throughout your life, so it makes sense that your favorites would change. And if anybody who is watching on the YouTube, you saw I did just post the link to the Kickstarter. I posted that on Facebook and YouTube, and
and
of
you
course, if
can
you're listening
also, yeah,
after, it'll be in the show notes.
that's right. And area51comic.com also has everything you need as I have it scrolling. If you are watching on any of them, hop in the chat, feel free. I know that I do want to talk about this, but we do have a question actually. Gibson in the chat. He would like to know whether it be the big two or third party, classic or modern, what writers served as inspirations for you, and then in what ways do they inform your unique style or help form your unique style of writing?
Well, writers, are we talking comic book writers or just like anyone?
Um,
I would say
any,
any
I would say any
either.
because you also have books out too. You've written some children books as
Yeah.
well, so you've done a lot of really cool things. So I would say
Check
any writers.
Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. I I was this close. I was so close to getting that as a show on Netflix, and then it kind of fell apart at the last minute
Oh,
through no fault of anybody's. But you know that's sometimes the way it goes.
Right.
showbiz, as they say, right?
Yeah. So I mean, uh, writer. Uh, I mean, Frank Miller is, I think, just amazing, and then you gotta love Stan Lee,
Yeah.
just for the volume
Yeah.
and the output of what was created so fast. You know, I got to talk with him a couple of times, and it's like, oh, I was doing 12 of them a month.
And you're like, how? I can, some people
How?
even
Yeah.
doing two a month, I feel like
Well,
is
he
extremely
did have
impressive.
some very good artists working
True.
with him.
Yes.
To make him look very good. Uh, and then as far as like novels, I think my favorites. Boy, I got a lot of fantasy people from. I mean, sci-fi. David Brin, fantasy, Feist. Uh, just overall, probably Stephen King. I've
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed over the years all of his stuff. Every time he comes out with a book, it's just, oh, this is so cool. Oh, it's different than the last thing. You know, now he's trying fantasy. It's just he can do no
Yeah.
wrong for me. You know,
Right.
it's always
Yeah.
like I'm going to be on a long flight and I gotta have something. I would pick a Stephen King book that I've never heard of over anything else, basically.
Right.
So
Well, he's also one of those writers that just so perfectly can describe a situation or a feeling, and it seems off the wall, but you're like, I know exactly what he's talking
Right.
about. So it's so easy to get lost into. I didn't discover Stephen King till a few years ago because I didn't used to love horror. So now I've been reading as much Stephen King as I can, and I'm constantly surprised when somebody's like, "Oh, you got to read this one." I hadn't even heard of that one. So I
there's
mean, the man's got a
two
lot.
there's two types of Stephen King people: those who come in through the Dark Tower or those who have some other random thing. Mostly,
Maximum Overdrive.
there
I
you
just
go.
got the first Dark Tower book, but I haven't started it yet.
That's how I discovered Stephen King as a child, was Maximum
I got.
Overdrive.
I mean, I forget. I'm sure I read some earliest, but the thing that some other works that I'm not remembering. Just enjoy. I enjoyed them, but the one that imprinted on me was The Stand.
Oh,
Oh, I
yes.
have
I'm a,
that
I'm
too.
a
Yeah.
Stand person, actually, and that there was one time they put out a thing which is probably a money grab, but Steven was probably happy with it in that they put in everything that the editor had requested he cut
Mhm.
out, and it was like 450 pages more stuff, right? So it's a 700 page 600 700 page book anyway, and now it just grows by 70%. So that was the version that I took. So I know, okay, I never would have parted with my money if I hadn't have read
Right.
Salem's Lot, Carrie, and all of that.
Mhm.
But those are like great creepy horror books and Maximum
Yeah.
Overdrive, stuff like that. Like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of bodies. The Stand genuinely unnerved me just because it was so. This could happen tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. And it's very good, like story driven wise as well. I mean, there's, all sorts of the classic Stephen King's in there, but I do feel like it is a slight bit of that departure from Salem's Lot, which is more
Salem's
supernatural
Lot, I
and
think,
things.
was the best book I've read so far.
The Dead Zone.
I actually just recently read Dead Zone. I did really like that one, but Salem's Lot I think has been my favorite because I just loved that I had no clue it was a vampire book. He did such a good job of building it up and not saying vampire.
That's true.
So, but yeah,
The Mist was good,
too.
except for
Yeah, I read The
obviously.
Mist.
Oh man, The Mist.
That's
The movie version of
worst.
The Mist is different than the book version. If
I
that,
didn't like either ending though.
Worst ending. It's like,
it left you with some. Oh
Steven?
my gosh! Like wow.
Like you couldn't have waited 5
Um,
minutes, but then the book didn't end. It was just it was exactly the same until that very end.
Yeah, and that's when
But,
Steven
yeah.
was like, I loved the movie ending more, but kind of looping it back into.
Yeah, we're going
I know
too much of a tangent. Sorry.
everything,
Wait,
but-
one more though, just
Yes.
just for you. If you haven't read it, and I think this is the name of it, Do McKee was one that I had never heard of. I picked it up and I'm like, this is in my top 10 easily.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's
All
really
right,
really
I just wrote it
cool.
down.
Yeah, I think it's called
Awesome.
Do McKee.
that's
Okay.
good because Lauren has a book club too that
you
she.
can just feel
There we
the sweat while you're
Mm.
reading it and the humidity. It's so good. And
I live in Florida.
boy,
I'll read it
supernatural.
outside.
Okay.
Perfect.
Gross.
All right, I'm sorry. We should get
No, you're
back
good.
up.
But going back to the comic real quick. Now the Kickstarter does launch June 1st. How many issues is going to be like?
Sorry.
Something you want to go ongoing? Oh, did I cut out? Oh no.
Well, funny thing. So, we launched the pre-launch page. This is my first Kickstarter, and so everybody told me you're going to make. It doesn't matter what mistakes I made. You're going to make a whole host of new ones. Sure enough, we're on it. We're doing it, Josh and I. We announced that it's June 1st, and then we found that June 1st was Sunday. So everybody's like, no, you got to move that. So it's actually going to be June 2nd, 9
There
a.m.
you go on a
June
Monday.
2nd.
There we go.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you would. I
Yeah.
would have never
I
known
didn't
that
know that
Sunday
it
was a
would've-
bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we hear, and
Mhm.
why tempt fate?
Right.
And,
That's
and by
true.
the way, please, anybody that if you can sign up, if you can follow me or something, I'll give you news about other stuff, other projects that are coming out, and whatever. Hopefully it'll be worth your while. If you even if you can just boost it on the socials, because
Oh yeah.
I'm just like,
Well, it's
I'm
often
terrified.
scary too, especially
Yeah,
being your first Kickstarter, and it can always be, it's one of those things. You always launch a project, which you've done so many times and you've written so many times, but this is kind of your first foray into a Kickstarter. And it can be one of those, just kind of scary to initially put it out there and see what the reaction is. But I mean, even looking at the page, and I was showing some of the pages here that you have on the Kickstarter, the artwork looks great. And not to mention, I'm a sucker for sci-fi as well. And so it to kind of something funny, such as they're filming reality TV. I love trash reality TV. Now we're bringing in some alien action into it. It's something that I'm totally excited for personally. I know that a lot of people that are either commenting right now, this is right up your alley as well. So hopefully everybody does check this out.
The once I figured out the galactic reality TV angle, I was just like, of course, Area 51. It's like it's low budget producers that can't afford a real location, so they come to the backwater, which is Earth, and shoot something low budget, hoping for a hit, right? And once I had that in my mind, I was like, oh, I can work with that. And I ended up cut back to the agents going, we can't sell that. Don't forget about it. I just kind of wrote it as a novella and just dropped it in my drawer. At that time, it wasn't even leave it on my hard drive. It was drop it in my drawer. And then I kind of dusted that idea off. And I'm like, this is something I'd like to do. And since it is so, it's a visual idea, I was like, maybe this is the comic. And so when Josh and I were talking initially about what are we going to do, he gave me a couple of ideas. I gave him a couple, 3 things to look at, and he was like, this one, I like this one. And so this is the first one.
It kind of does have, like, looking at the artwork, there's some Futurama, Simpsons, almost like, you're watching those classics. I know you've been sitting on like 20 years. It's something you've been really thinking about. Were those some of the inspirations for Josh as well, kind of going through it? Or what things did you give him to look at as I mess around with my screens?
Well, I gave him I gave him the novella to read. I gave him, I gave him the first 10 pages of a couple of things. Because I've got just a bunch of ideas that either didn't make it or I didn't get past like the pitch stage. And this is the one that he kind of chose. And I was pretty happy with that. When we got into it, the back and forth has really improved it. This is another thing where I'm like, is this going to work at all? But I'm sure other people have done stuff based on their novella, and Kickstarter does books too.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a dual hybrid. What you asked before, it's going to be 4 issues. They are going to encompass 100 to 110 pages, and then we're going to put it together in a graphic novel. Now, awesome. A lot of times when people are doing their first Kickstarter, and I've certainly have supported my friends and other people throughout my career while I was not doing Kickstarter. So no pressure to those specific people.
Hey, if you're listening to this, remember that time Ernie's name was on the pledges. So I'm just saying.
I've been pledging for years, but I was wow. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally good. You've been
And if anybody wants to check out these pages that Matt's posting up, a bunch of the first few pages are actually on the Kickstarter. So I read through those, and you get that like sleazy studio movie guy feel, kind of like you get like the whole the vibe you're going for. And I love those kind of stories that kind of like make fun of the industry you're kind of in. So I think that's it adds an extra element of hilarity. Really, it's fun.
It is the behind the baseball stuff that would actually happen, but now with aliens and different stuff happening. What I would hope to do is do these 4 issues and do a graphic novel, and then if there were going to be more issues, I would actually collect real stories from my friends and kind of obviously not use any of the names or anything, but I would it's like what is the worst pitch you've ever had? It's like
we're doing it.
We always talk about these stories of you wouldn't believe what happened next. And so
You're like, try me.
Well, yeah, nothing's
I wanna
weirder than
put in
reality.
stuff like that that is
That
so
would be
unbelievable
perfect.
that you were like, yeah, this is just a fake story, and it's with aliens, but it was like, no, that exact thing happened to, and like three of us will know it. Like, no,
Right.
that was that guy. You know,
Like
That's
nobody
what
could make
makes,
this up because it's true.
I know somebody reading like, wow, this is so outrageous. And then you're like, little do you know.
I mean, yeah, what is it? Truth is stranger than fiction.
It
yes,
is,
it is true.
and then they always have those, danger signs or something, those warnings, somebody did something. So it's akin to that you'd be surprised sometimes what goes on
We're
out
gonna
there,
keep it light. We're gonna try and keep it light and weird. The Monty Python
I like that. Light and weird.
version.
Yeah.
Uh, although, yes, there's death. There's some slapstick Three Stooges humor, violence that you get to take back sometimes.
That's
I love
exciting. I
slapstick.
mean,
I feel like you
I
don't
know,
see it
I do
enough
too.
these days. I love watching yeah, like Three Stooges. I grew up watching that.
You know me, I'm a
But
sucker for dad jokes and things, just like that goofy, stupid humor, And so it very much gives that vibes and giving that coming back, and it's loving. That's why when people ask comic books, like their first thought is going into superheroes, and it's like, no, 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 no. There's literally a comic book for
for
everybody out there,
everything.
and
Yeah,
this
there
right
always has
here
been.
is proof, that there really is something for everybody. And if you just love a good comedic, story like this, oh man, this book is gonna rock. I can already tell you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yeah,
Of course,
I mean, I do hope. I do
we
hope that people will enjoy it. I think that there's, an odd a set of people that will kind of like this tone that we
right.
got going.
Hmm.
So we've had the schedule. We're going down. We're barreling down the road. I mean, once you start it, it's like going down a bobsled course. It doesn't really matter if you try and break. You're in
You're
it.
still going, yeah.
Once June 2nd hits, we're on the hook for having but we're done with this one. I was like, no, 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 I can't. I am not confident enough. Like
Yeah,
some other people that I know, um, they're like, yeah, I just got the general idea. I'll write it, and then the sky
we'll
will be
figure it
falling.
out.
And I'm like, and you're gonna launch the project that way? I'm like, no, no, no.
You're
I'm
doing
done.
what?
I'm done with writing of book 3, and Josh is inking book 2. In fact, that one of the we're gonna have like 8 pages of extras in there,
Ooh,
and for people who some people call them process junkies, for like how did this get from here to
that's me.
here,
I love
right?
the how did it get made aspect. Yes.
So I take as a preview of book 2, I take a couple of pages from the novella, and then you can see the inks that have been done with the dialogue. So you
Oh,
can
that's so
see
cool.
what was on the page, what's been cut, what we're using. And then if you buy book 2, which will be in September or October when we do another Kickstarter for that, then you'll see the finished pages for that. And I think we'll do the
That
same
rocks.
Oh,
thing
that's
again.
cool.
So then you get
Yeah.
to preview
That's, yeah. You
3.
get a taste of like,
So
hey,
they're
this is what you get to look forward to.
right, they're following along in the
Exactly.
process. Yeah, that's awesome.
I
Yeah, I
I
gotta say
I
that Josh is like, I'm not sure if I like this because it's not finished,
Yeah,
Right.
right?
well, yeah, because I
Like,
mean, as an artist, you are got to be. It's just like writing. It's not a finished product, but it also is kind of that. How did it get made? How do we get to the finished? And then putting it out there. So I can absolutely see
He
both
wants it to be
sides.
perfect before people see
Yeah,
it. But
it's that aspect of it.
it's no, and it's true. I mean, like I'm like, well, the novella's done. I've got 15 drafts on
Like,
that
we'll
thing.
catch up, buddy.
but the dialogue will change a lot. It gets refined a lot, and
Yeah.
Josh and I go back and forth, and I think we make it better actually. So the good thing that the novella exists is that, and this was the point that I forgot, is that with first time people and some of my friends that had done, they didn't make it when they tried to do like something overly expansive, 6 or 12 issues or something. It's like they
Right.
sputtered out at 2 or 3, and you're like, damn it, this was a really good story, but it was too much.
Right.
Well, you know, A, I don't think we're gonna, because we're far ahead. But B, there's the novella. You'll always be able to read the
That's
ending,
true. Yes.
and
You're
you'll
going
be
to get
able
the
to
ending regardless. This isn't
you'll be
Netflix.
able to read it. And I know some people are like, but that's spoilers. I'm like, it's way different. We're not. You can't possibly. Any book has to be adapted. It You're not getting everything. Like,
That's
Right.
surely
yes.
everybody's read, say, the Harry Potter books, right?
Oh,
And there's so
absolutely.
much that you have to leave behind because it's a 700-page book.
Yeah.
After the first 2 or 3, right? It just goes
They
bad,
get thicker and thicker. Yeah.
right? And it's just like it's too much.
It-
I mean, same thing with these. The shortest one I've ever done was the Judas Contract, and that was 3 issues, and then one was like a double, right? So it was 5 issues altogether. We had to cut out the entire Deathstroke origin story because there wasn't room, right? Never mind Batman Hush. They're like, why didn't you have like
I was going to say Hushes. I
this,
was going
this
to
or
say, what
that
is
in there?
that
I'm
like
like,
for you? Yeah.
because it's 12 issues of comic,
Yeah.
and we have 72 minutes, which somehow James Tucker magically stretched to 90 minutes by using camera voodoo and stuff. So
Well, what was it like then? Okay, so talking about those, like Hush is one of the most renowned, Batman stories. So what was that like going from, the Judas Contract, which was your first one and it was the shortest one, then going to in adapting something like Hush? Was there a sense of pressure or freedom, and how did all that work for you doing that then?
I came to Hush later because Hush was after my college, and so I had stopped being a monthly comic reader at that point.
Hmm.
And so then I saw the compiled issue, and I was like, whoa, this is a great story. I
Yeah,
think, other than the Dark Knight, I think it might be the Dark Knight and Hush would be my top.
those would be like my top two as well. Yeah.
Yeah. um, by the way, the Dark Knight adaptations that DC did are
Those are my
actually
yearly
my favorite.
rewatches. Yes, I have
Those
the
are
part one
those are
and
my
two.
two favorites. Jay
So
Oliva directed both of those, and I got to work with him on Justice League Dark,
oh,
and
which I love
it was right
Justice League
before he
Dark. I'm a
left to do
oh.
bigger and better things, I think. Uh, but yes, where were we? I'm
No,
sorry.
what was it like adapting? So you came onto it later. Batman Hush is big. And you had to cut some things out even
Yeah.
within that. What was that like for you deciding? Was it writing? Was it you just tried to put everything in there and then they decided? Or is it, hey, you need to chop some things down?
Well, no, we knew we needed to chop some things down because what you start with is 72 minutes of animation, and whether they can stretch it is, that's a decision that they're making much later, right? So I've got to write a script that's about 90 pages max, which to tell all that story is not a lot of time at all. So we're all in the room, and everybody picks their favorite scenes. What has to be in here, right?
Okay.
And so I was like, the Poison Ivy Superman scene.
Oh
I
yeah.
I need that in there.
Mine,
And,
yeah.
so that wasn't a hard sell because Poison Ivy's a great character, and getting Superman in anything is like not hard. And then the Joker,
I was gonna
we
say
had
that Joker sequence,
right.
yep, where
Oh, that
Batman
one's
almost
so
reaches his
dark.
breaking point. That is
Yeah.
probably one of the most important parts of the
That was
story.
about the time where Harley Quinn just whoop,
That's
so
true.
it
Yeah.
was like, let's get Harley in. She's getting popular, So we did the Harley scene, and then some other ones there just wasn't room for. But it's kind of heartbreaking. It's like, oh no, we can't fit that. Um, and then there's the the combination. I mean, like the decision was kind of made in the room of like, hey, do we want to switch it up? Because everybody knows the ending of Hush.
Right.
Do we want to try and fake everyone out? And for that, you either get wildly praised or you've ruined people's
That's a
childhood.
bit. It's a big risk, right? I mean, especially when you got
So
the modern
I
day
think
nerds.
it's 2 to 1. It's 2 to 1. Like, oh my god, I think that really makes sense. Now it's one villain. It's strong
Yeah.
versus you guys screwed up, Hush.
How could you do this? This was the greatest thing
And,
ever. You
but
killed Batman.
both camps are very passionate.
Without a doubt. And then, I mean, not even just Hush, but now the DC animated has always been some of my favorite things. And they just like Justice League, Dark, and, Apocalypse War, they kind of tie together. Was that difficult for you to kind of keep things tied together through canon? Or was that just, I can do this kind of in my sleep at this point?
No, well, I mean, I don't have to keep them all tied together. James Tucker does.
You got the easy
So
job. You're like,
it's
haha, not my
called the
problem.
Tuckerverse, which he hates, for that reason. Um, Here might be a little known fact, or I mean, some people know, some process nerds, I guess. But so the Tuckerverse ended. Jim Krieg, who is he wrote Flashpoint, which kind of starts the Tuckerverse, and then Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and I co-wrote that with Margaret Scott, and that kind of ends it. But then Jim's like, "Hey, we need a bridge." Or I've got this. Actually, he was like, "I've got this Constantine, and I have an idea of what we would like to do with it." It's like I want to do something like in that Doctor Who episode that just happened, Heaven Sent, where he dies
Oh,
a million times.
we haven't watched this season yet.
No, that's like
Oh,
that.
okay, okay, okay.
Heaven Sent's Pete Capaldi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, and he's there for like ever.
yeah, where he's
Yeah.
punching the thing and he's like saying the poem or whatever, and it's great voiceover. It's amazing, right? And I was like, oh yes, let's do something like that with Constantine. And then he's like, hey, Butch is taking over, and it's going to start a whole new universe, right? Which has been named now the Tomorrowverse. And he's like, and we're going to do Crisis, right? So I can say that now. Like before I was in these things, I'm like, what are they leading up to? Like, hey, if you can't figure it out, like do some more reading. But that Constantine, that House of Mystery, that DC Showcase short, Constantine, the House of Mystery, is actually the linchpin. It's the link between the Tomorrowverse, the 16 movie Tomorrowverse, and the I don't know how many movie. The Tuckerverse, the 16 movie Tuckerverse, and the dozen or 14 movie Tomorrowverse.
Gotcha. So DC comes to you and they're like, "Hey, we have this comic we want to adapt into an animated film. Can you write it?" Or do you ever get to go to them and be like, "Hey, I'd really like to do this, this comic to film."
Both happen. Sometimes they go, "Hey, we'd like to hear pitches of what you guys would like to adapt." Doesn't mean they'll do it, but sometimes
Right.
I've heard that people go, "Oh yeah, let's do that one." I kept pitching the War of Jokes and Riddles, and it never happened. But maybe it will someday. Maybe someone else will do it. I'd watch it. I watch all these, no matter if I do them or not. I was a fan before. Just like
Right.
when I was over here at first, I was like going to Comic-Con, and I didn't get it for free. I was paying, and I was sitting in the audience.
I mean,
Did we lose him?
No, he should be back on in just a minute. He had something go on with one of his kids earlier that he had to take a phone call real quick. So he's got me on the phone here. But yeah, I've had such a great time talking about Area 51, and I know that we could keep you and do a whole episode, honestly, on just Batman Hush. That's such a great animated film. And I actually haven't read the comic. I need to read the comic. I'm a late DC bloomer. I'm more a Marvel. So it's like the more I podcast, the more I'm like, oh, I need to read this and that and this. So it's been so fun to dive into these comic books and the animated versions because they're so very similar, too. I was impressed with like Long Halloween, how close that was to the comic. So it's so fun to see all these. And I gotta say, Batman Hush, too, is so dark and hilarious. And I think a lot of people who haven't dipped their toes into these animated films because they think they're for kids are very much so mistaken. So if anyone's out there thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna watch that, it's a cartoon about Batman, it's got some lines that are, definitely go over kids' heads. And there was times I was chuckling, and I've seen it a couple times. It's very, very good.
I think I did. I think the first one that got an R, although it really shouldn't have, was Justice League Dark. And then the Killing Joke really just like broke right for the hard R, So yeah, no, these are. I think these could easily be live action movies. They do not want whatever, the world of Super Friends, or Wonder Pets or something like that. Yeah. Actually, we would make a movie about that, and that'd be great. But
I did watch Super Pets. It was very cute.
Yeah. Oh no, that was cool. So did I. I watched all the different ages, but this is not that. This is definitely for adults, and yeah, I'd say at least 14, 15 years old. That
yeah,
some of it's a little. People do die, right?
No, and more than that, they do more than that as well.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's another thing that people get me for is just mowing through the characters because I had the honor of working on something like Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and it's like, well, it is another universe, so we're just going to kill everybody.
We're going to kill them right away, too.
We're going to kill a lot of people in horrible ways. A lot of heroes.
There was, yeah. You guys, Wonder Woman was bit the dust like right away, but then you guys brought a clever way back to reanimate her. But yeah, you guys, it was awesome.
And then or like you get to do an Injustice. And you're like, oh man, this version of Superman is like not going to please some of the fans of Superman, but it was just such a good comic. I thought,
yeah.
And when people were, saying who wants to do this, and I guess since it was a video game, some people were like,
it was, yeah, yep.
Some people were like, oh, I don't know about that. I'd rather do originals. I was like, me, I want to do it. I want to do Injustice.
Yeah, I remember going to a party when the video game came out. They had like a release party because a friend of ours worked on it. Yeah, well, I never thought like that when I was in my 40s, I'd be watching more cartoons than I did when I was a kid. And now it's, between all these and Invincible and X-Men 97, it's like a lot of cartoons. And they're Star Wars. You got to watch the cartoons.
It's the greatest thing we've done. I've gotten Lauren into a whole world she didn't know existed prior to this.
I mean, that the Wolverine poster behind you. I remember buying that comic.
Yeah, my comic shop gave it to me for, I guess they sent them a bunch of Wolverine posters for the 50th last year. And so they're like, do you want this? I'm like, yes, I definitely do.
I feel like you've had it forever. But, as we kind of start to wrap up here, I mean, what can I say is everybody, area51comic.com is where you can get it. But Ernie, what do people have to look forward? Are you going to any conventions? I know you've got some upcoming projects. What are some things that they have to look forward to from you, aside from this comic book that's getting ready to come out?
Well, it's I can't even mention the title of one of the live action movie that I've done. But
go to his socials. You can watch his socials, and when it's time, it's going to be there.
Yes, I did put his Instagram handle in the Facebook and on YouTube.
It's listed in IMDb. But yeah, if you want to follow me on X or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, I'm on there. there is something coming out later this year. I can't be more specific than that, unfortunately, but people have been waiting for it a while, and it is called Batman Azteca
Oh
or
yeah.
Aztec Batman. I'm still not sure because, again, writer, and then off the animators
Everything.
go for
Yeah.
2 years, But it's basically a reimagining of the Batman mythos in 1520 and the Aztec Empire, and
Oh, that's cool.
Sick.
Anything
it's
with the Aztecs is
really cool.
fascinating.
I wrote the script with the director Juan Mazaleon, and he did a super job. Uh, the way this thing came out, I was really really impressed because you go away and then sometimes they show you the animatic and they go, "Hey, give us notes if they cut anything that is going to be a plot issue later. We want to
Yeah.
know about it." Um, and and animatics, they mostly they all look awful. You're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get killed. And then when it's fully animated, it's like, oh no, it's great, right? Well, this animatic, I was like, damn, this is can't be this good.
Really good.
It can't turn out as good as this animatic seems. So, not that it was done right, but
Right.
the vocal performances and just the way the shots were being framed, I was like, wow, this looks like a movie, like a theatrical movie, not a DVD release. And then it came out, and I was like, wow. I mean, when you watch something, when I watch something that I wrote and I've been through it 100 times, so I know everything that's coming up and whatever, and I'm watching this on my computer screen in my darkened room, right? And there were 2 or 3 times where I was like, "Holy, wow!" Right? And that they animated it so well, the sequence and the music and everything, and it got me. That rarely happens, and it happened
That's
like
awesome.
3 or 4
Oh,
times.
and that comes out, you said, later this year?
Yes.
Oh man. I'm going to be
Yeah.
excited, and perhaps,
I'm,
when it does
I'm
come out,
hoping.
might
That's
have
what
to
that's what I heard. Nobody calls
allegedly.
me
There
up
no
and
one's
go,
calling the writer.
Ernie,
It's
we want you to know, like,
You're like, when it's
that's
out, it's
one
out.
of the things you have to put up with. But it's all worth it. It's a great big team effort, and you know what? When you're not hearing the information, you're working on other things, right? Like I'm working
Right.
on this comic book. I'm working on a couple other things. I mean, in July, there's going to be a preschool show that I did for my boss on Spider-Man, who gave me my
Oh
first
wow.
job,
Oh,
called
that's cool.
Weather Hunters on PBS.
Oh
It's a
wow.
young kid show,
Oh,
but it's come out great, you know.
yeah.
Um, and then I'll just mention the other one, which might be in the film festival circuit. I'm hoping that it's going to be shown soon in America, and it's called, okay, title's not mine,
You can say it. I
but
know I heard it's the
it's
yes.
it's it's about two bumbling private detectives, and it's called Dicks.
Yes. Hey, you know
So
what? I'm sold.
I
you
love
know,
some good
I was
wordplay.
just like, oh, please let it come up on my IMDb where I'm like, Lego Dreams, Weather Hunters, Dicks, you know, right? And then Batman Azteca, right?
You're
So
like, wow, this guy does a lot of variation.
this is a wide range, and a comic book, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping everything hits the griddle at the same time. It'll be really like fun.
Yeah,
Yes, and we'll
absolutely.
make
And
sure to be staying on top of it
I
and
was gonna
sharing
say,
as
yeah,
well. So yeah.
as the Kickstarter goes live, and as of course, all these other great projects, come out, we'll have to have you back, get to chat about them, go in depth. Really sincerely appreciate linking up with you and getting a chance to talk a bit about, Area 51, studios, and then some of the insight into some of these amazing DC animated films. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot. And if you want it, as the issues come out and we can concentrate on one or two of the films, you can ping me with questions, because I know we were all over.
We were, yeah, but that's the beauty of
And-
podcast. And I apologize. I had something happen with my son today, so I had to take a
I'm
phone
not talking
call.
about that, but just
but
I hope the audience, got what they wanted. I'm sure they did. They're like, they didn't answer any questions about this thing that he screwed
Honestly,
up.
a lot of the questions I wrote out, you answered organically. And I always think the best interviews are the ones that we do go off on tangents because we're having fun. It's not just, this isn't ABC News. Like,
yeah,
we're
we're not
having
sticking
fun.
to that 5-minute, thing. It's the beauty of getting to do this, and we'll have to come back and we'll get to chat way more in depth. So again, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Matt and Lauren, from Josh and myself. Thank you very much. And any support you or your audience has given us, it's already been much more than we could have asked for. So thanks a lot for just letting you talk about the project.
Of course, anytime. And everybody go out there, area51comic.com. That's where you can find the Kickstarter. You can back it, you can support it, or show links are all here. This is going to also, it's playing live now, but I'm putting it out on the podcast spaces. So if you want to go back and listen, it's right all there. So everybody, thank you guys. Don't only support that, but like, subscribe, share, drop a review. Let us know what you thought as well. And then let us know if you've supported the project as well, so we can also know who all out there is doing some really cool things. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time as our Star Wars month continues next week with our Andor season 2 wrap up. And cheers, buddy.
I think I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yes.
Are all 3 episodes dropping?
All the finale. This is it.
I would get so much more done if I wasn't as big a fan.
I
know. I gotta watch the rest of that.
3 episodes, and luckily you're on the Pacific time, Eastern time over here, and I got to be up. I'm still gonna do it. Still staying up. But.
All right,
All right, everybody.
Thanks
cheers.